4 years married to Maggie, I run a small engineering consulting firm I built from nothing after college. When we met, I was 28, she was 26, and my company was barely breaking even. Maggie knew this. She watched me work 70-hour weeks while contributing almost nothing beyond her part-time retail job. I never complained because I genuinely believed she was my partner. Last Thursday around 9 p.m., I was finishing proposals in my home office when I heard Maggie start a video call in the living room. Her mom, Bernadette's voice came through clearly. Then her older sister Rhiannon joined. I figured I'd say hi after they finished. Then Bernadette asked when Maggie was finally going to pull the trigger and drain me dry. And Maggie laughed. She said, "Patience, m. My company just landed a government contract worth millions, and she wasn't leaving until she could take at least half." Rhiannon asked about some guy named Wilfred. Maggie said he was very much in the picture every Thursday when her idiot husband thinks she's at yoga class. She said Wilfred knew the whole plan and was ready to move in the day the divorce finalizes. I need you to understand the audacity of holding a full criminal strategy meeting in the living room while your husband is 20 feet away. This woman really said, he's in the home office. He can't hear through walls. Like sound doesn't exist. Like she's living in a vacuum-sealed bubble of delusion. And can we talk about Wilfred for a second? Wilfred. This man is sitting there like, yes, babe. I will wait patiently while you extract wealth from another man, and then I will move into his house. Wilfred isn't a romantic partner. He's a squatter with a waiting list number. He's basically pre-ordering a lifestyle like it's a limited edition sneaker drop. Notify me when the divorce finalizes. I want the house in beige. But here's what's really cooking my brain right now. She said, patience, m. Patience. Like this is a slow cooker recipe. Like she's been marinating this man for 4 years and checking the timer. Not yet, he's not tender enough. Let him land a few more contracts, then we feast. Then Bernadette explained everything about the past 4 years. She told Maggie, that's my girl. Her father was the same way, blind and stupid until the day she cleaned him out. She said it was in Maggie's blood. So Reddit needs to understand something about me. I'm not crying into my keyboard right now. I'm calm because everything finally makes sense. Why Maggie never wanted full-time work. Why she insisted on joint accounts. Why she pushed hard to buy a house together right after contract negotiations started. Why her family always treated me with fake warmth and barely concealed contempt. I've been a mark from day one. This wasn't a marriage gone bad. This was a con I walked into because I was too trusting. Her mother did this to her father. Rhiannon laughed like she'd heard this playbook 100 times. This is how these women operate. Bernadette out here running a generational scam academy. This isn't a family, it's a pyramid scheme where the product is destroyed men. She literally said, it's in your blood. Like divorce fraud is a genetic trait. Like they got DNA tested and the results came back 47% European, 32% African, 21% financial predator. And the way all those puzzle pieces suddenly clicked for him. Never wanted full-time work. Pushed for joint accounts. Wanted the house right when the big contract came through. Guys, this wasn't a marriage. This was a hostile acquisition disguised as love. She basically did corporate espionage in a wedding dress. You know what haunts me? Rhiannon laughed like she'd heard this playbook before, which means she's also either running the scheme on some poor guy right now, or she's in training. There's a whole assembly line of men out there who have no idea they're married to phase 2 of Bernadette's retirement plan. But they made one critical miscalculation. They assumed I was as stupid as Maggie's father apparently was. They don't know the government contract comes with specific provisions about ownership and asset protection. They don't know I've been consulting with a lawyer friend about restructuring for tax reason. And they don't know I recorded every word of that conversation the second I realized what I was hearing. I haven't confronted Maggie yet. I've been acting completely normal for a week. She has no idea. But I've already started making moves. I pulled all financial statements. I documented her complete lack of contribution to my company. And I found out exactly how long her Thursday yoga classes have been running. I'm not posting for sympathy. I need to get this out before I execute the plan I've been putting together. My wife and her family think they're about to hit the jackpot. They have no idea what's coming. We'll update when things start moving. Oh, we've got a tactician on our hands. This man heard his entire marriage was a fraud, and his response wasn't tears. Wasn't confrontation. It was, let me pull up Excel and start documenting. Engineers, men. You can't break them. You can only give them a new project. And I love that he's been acting normal for a week. A week. He's sitting across from this woman at dinner like, how was your day, honey? While mentally preparing exhibits A through Z. She's over there thinking she's playing 4D chess, and this man already moved the whole board to a different room. But here's the thing that really gets me. They assumed he was stupid because Maggie's father was stupid. They ran the same play twice expecting different results. Bernadette really thought, well, it worked on my husband in 1987. Surely all men are identical. Ma'am, you're running Windows 95 tactics on a man with government contracts and lawyer friends. The operating system has been updated. Update 1. So a lot happened since my last post, and I need to get this down while it's fresh. First, some of you asked how I've been acting normal around Maggie. The answer is 4 years of practice. I've apparently been performing in a fake marriage this whole time without knowing it. So continuing the act while actually being aware of it isn't that hard. The difference now is I'm the one with information she doesn't have. My father, Jeffrey, came to visit this weekend. He's the only family I have left since my mom passed 3 years ago. I didn't plan on telling him anything, but we were sitting on the back porch while Maggie was out supposedly getting groceries, and he looked at me and said he'd noticed I seemed different lately. Not upset exactly, just focused in a way he hadn't seen since I was building the company. I told him everything. The video call, what Bernadette said about Maggie's father, all of it. My dad just listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that added a whole new dimension to the situation. He told me he'd met Maggie's father once years ago at our wedding reception. The guy pulled him aside and tried to warn him about something, but Bernadette interrupted before he could finish. My dad always wondered what he was trying to say. So now I'm realizing Maggie's father might have been trying to warn my family about what his own wife and daughter were capable of. And nobody listened. Maggie's father tried to be a hero at that wedding, and Bernadette intercepted him like a defensive linebacker. This man saw history about to repeat itself, tried to throw up a flare, and got body blocked by the mastermind herself. He's probably been carrying that guilt for 4 years like, I could have saved that kid, but my ex-wife has elite awareness. And can we appreciate Jeffrey for a second? Dads just know. He didn't say, you seem sad. Or, is everything okay? He said, you seem focused. He recognized the energy shift from happy husband to man with a mission. That's a father who built something himself and knows what problem-solving mode looks like on his son's face. Also, the layers here are insane. Bernadette drained Maggie's father, trained her daughter to do the same, and then had the audacity to bring that man to the wedding, where he'd have to watch the cycle begin again. That's not just cruel. That's performance art. That's making your victim attend the premiere of the sequel to his own tragedy. Here's where things get complicated. Maggie came home from her grocery run acting strange. She kept looking at me like she was trying to read something on my face. That night she asked why my dad seemed so quiet during dinner. I said he was just tired from the drive. She didn't push it, but I could tell she wasn't buying it. Then Monday, her sister Rhiannon sent her a string of messages. Maggie left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered, and I saw the notifications lighting up the screen. I couldn't read the full messages, but I saw enough. Rhiannon was asking why Maggie was dragging her feet. She mentioned something about Wilfred getting impatient and said their mother was asking questions. So now there's pressure from multiple directions. Rhiannon is pushing Maggie to move faster. Wilfred apparently has his own timeline. And Bernadette is orchestrating the whole thing from whatever dark corner she operates from. Wilfred is getting impatient. This man is literally waiting for another man's marriage to collapse so he can inherit the furniture, and he's asking, what's taking so long? Sir, you are on a wait list for a stolen life. You don't get to complain about shipping delays on goods you're not even paying for. And Bernadette operating from whatever dark corner she operates from took me out. This woman has set up a whole command center somewhere. Probably has a whiteboard with timelines and asset projections. Calling her daughters for status updates like a mob boss checking on her crews. Rhiannon, report. Maggie, what's your ETA on the extraction? The Q4 numbers aren't looking good. But here's what's wild. Maggie noticed something was off with Jeffrey at dinner. She's got good instincts. She can read a room. She just never thought to turn those instincts on herself. She can detect when the mark is suspicious, but can't detect that the mark has been running counter-surveillance for 2 weeks. Predators get comfortable. That's always how they get caught. But here's what none of them know. I spent the weekend with my lawyer friend going through every document related to my company structure. The business was incorporated 2 years before I even met Maggie. My father was listed as a silent partner with a 15% stake, something we set up for estate planning purposes. This means the company was never fully marital property to begin with. I also found records of every single Thursday Maggie claimed she was at yoga. Cross-referenced with our joint credit card, she was actually charging dinners and hotel rooms to our account while supposedly stretching and meditating. She's been funding her affair with my own money. Maggie tried to initiate a conversation last night about our future. She said she felt like we'd been distant lately and wanted to reconnect. She asked if maybe we should start thinking about having kids since the company was doing so well now. I almost laughed in her face. She's literally trying to lock me down further right before she plans to destroy me. I told her we should definitely talk about our future soon, very soon. She smiled and said she'd like that. She has no idea what kind of future I'm actually planning. My father left yesterday, but before he went, he grabbed my shoulder and told me to make sure I protect everything I've built. He said some people only understand consequences. I'm meeting with an actual divorce attorney tomorrow. We'll update after. She charged the affair to their joint account. This woman was literally sending him the receipts. Every Thursday he got a notification, your wife has checked into the Marriott. Your wife purchased 2 lobster dinners. Your wife is having a great time. She basically CC'd him on her own betrayal and assumed he'd never read the emails. And then she tried to baby trap him at the finish line. Maybe we should have kids since the company is doing so well. Ma'am, you're not trying to start a family. You're trying to add an 18-year revenue stream. A child isn't a blessing to her. It's a monthly invoice. That's not maternal instinct, that's just better math. But that father-son moment before Jeffrey left, some people only understand consequences. That's not advice, that's a blessing. That's a dad who probably spent his whole life being too nice to people who didn't deserve it. Watching his son about to make the same mistake and finally saying, no, not this time. This one we finish. Protect the shoulder grab. That shoulder grab transferred generational wisdom. Update 2. The attorney meeting changed everything. My lawyer Ethan went through all my documentation and the recording. He told me something I hadn't considered. In our state, proving adultery can completely invalidate certain spousal support claims, especially combined with evidence of premeditated financial planning against a spouse. The recording of Bernadette coaching Maggie wasn't just emotionally validating, it was legally devastating to their entire strategy. But things escalated fast. Maggie invited her mother to stay with us this weekend. Bernadette showed up Friday with 2 suitcases and told me how wonderful it was the company was doing so well. She said Maggie told her all about the government contract and how proud she was of me. I just smiled. Watching her perform while knowing exactly what she thinks of me was fascinating. This woman destroyed Maggie's father and trained her daughter to do the same to me. Bernadette showed up with 2 suitcases to do reconnaissance. This woman packed a weekend bag to gather intelligence on her daughter's investment. She's not visiting family. She's conducting an audit. Somewhere in those suitcases is a notepad labeled Asset Assessment, Mark 2.0 inches and a calculator. And the way she walked in talking about how proud she was of him. This man is sitting there knowing this woman called him blind and stupid 3 weeks ago. Watching her perform pride like she's auditioning for Mother-in-Law of the Year. The emotional discipline required to smile through that and not immediately play the recording on a Bluetooth speaker. I couldn't do it. I would have cracked by hour 2. But here's the thing. Ethan the lawyer basically told him he's holding a nuclear weapon. Adultery, premeditation, recorded evidence of a conspiracy. This isn't a divorce case anymore. This is a prosecution. Bernadette thought she was teaching her daughter chess, but she accidentally recorded herself explaining every move to an opponent who was already listening. Saturday morning, Bernadette cornered me while Maggie showered. She started asking detailed questions about the business. How many employees? What percentage came from the government contract? Whether I had partners or owned everything myself. She framed it as motherly interest, but the questions were surgical. She was gathering intelligence. I gave mostly accurate information with strategic omissions. I mentioned my father's stake in the company, which made her pause. She asked since when, and I said before Maggie and I even met. I could see her mentally recalculating. That night I heard them talking in the guest room. Bernadette was upset saying this complicated things and asking why Maggie never mentioned Jeffrey's ownership. Maggie said she didn't know. Bernadette told her she should have done her homework before spending 4 years on this. Bernadette cornered him while Maggie was in the shower. She couldn't even wait for a natural conversation opportunity. She had to ambush him in a 2-minute window like a journalist catching a politician between buildings. Quick, she's shampooing. I need revenue breakdowns now. And when he dropped the "my father's had equity since before we met" bomb, you could hear her internal spreadsheet crashing. 4 years of planning, 4 years of positioning, and suddenly there's a variable she didn't account for. Bernadette really said, "You should have done your homework," to her own daughter. "Ma'am, this is your curriculum. You designed this course. You don't get to blame the student when your teaching materials had gaps." This woman spent 4 years viewing this man as a retirement fund and never once thought to check if there were other shareholders. That's like planning a heist on a bank and never confirming where the vault actually is. Amateur hour from someone who presents herself as a professional. So Bernadette views her daughter's marriage as an investment that might not pay off. Maggie isn't just betraying me. She's trying to prove herself to a mother who sees her as a tool for extracting wealth from men. Sunday before leaving, Bernadette pulled Maggie aside in the driveway. Whatever she said changed Maggie's whole demeanor. That night Maggie asked directly whether my father really owned part of the company. I told her I could show her the incorporation documents. She said that wouldn't be necessary, but her energy shifted completely. She's realizing this might be harder than her mother promised. Monday, I moved forward with Ethan's plan. I opened an account in my name only and redirected my direct deposits. Everything documented and legal, but I'm separating what's mine from what's joint. Maggie noticed immediately when our joint account didn't get the usual deposit. She texted asking what happened. I told her we'd talk when I got home. I'm about to have that conversation. Tonight is when everything falls apart for real. That driveway conversation? Bernadette definitely told her daughter she might have wasted 4 years. She drove 6 hours, did a full financial interrogation, discovered the plan had holes, and her goodbye was probably something like, "Well, get what you can, but this one might not cover my retirement like I hoped." What a mother! Imagine raising a child specifically to exploit men and then being disappointed when she doesn't exploit them efficiently enough. And Maggie asking about the incorporation documents? She didn't actually want to see them. She already knew the answer would be bad. She was just hoping he'd say, "Oh no, my dad's not really involved. I just said that." She was looking for a loophole in the trap that was already closing on her. But the redirect of the direct deposit? That's when the game officially started. 4 years of fake marriage, 1 deposit redirect, and suddenly her whole reality is collapsing. She texted immediately. Immediately. She monitors that account like a hawk watching a rabbit. Except this rabbit just grew wings. Final update. The conversation happened. Maggie came at me demanding to know why I moved money without telling her. She said married couples don't make financial decisions alone and accused me of hiding something. The irony was so thick I almost choked on it. I let her finish her whole speech about trust and partnership. Then I asked her one simple question. "How was yoga last Thursday?" She said it was fine. But I asked her to describe the class. She stumbled through some generic answer about stretching and breathing exercises. Then I asked why the yoga studio showed no record of her membership for the past 8 months. She tried to recover. She said she'd been doing outdoor yoga with a friend group instead. I asked which friend. She said I wouldn't know them. I told her I might know Wilfred though, since she'd mentioned him to her mother during their video call 3 weeks ago. She really walked into that kitchen ready to lecture him about trust. She had a speech prepared about financial transparency. The woman who has been funding hotel rooms for her boyfriend with his money came in hot about him opening a separate account. The audacity is so thick you could cut it with a knife and serve it as dessert. And the slow walk into the trap? Chef's kiss. He didn't start with I know everything. He started with how was yoga? Let her dig herself deeper. Let her fabricate details about a class she never attended. Every lie she told was another shovel of dirt on her own case. By the time she got to outdoor yoga with friends I wouldn't know, she was already 6 feet under and still digging. That pause when he said, Wilfred. The exact second her brain registered that he knew. That's the moment 4 years of planning evaporated. That's the moment she realized she wasn't the predator anymore. Somewhere in whatever dark corner Bernadette operates from, a whiteboard just burst into flames. Watching her face process that I knew was genuinely satisfying. She didn't cry or apologize. She got angry. She demanded to know if I'd been spying on her. I said no, she was just loud and I have ears. Then I played her the recording. Bernadette's voice filled our living room. Drain him dry. Pull the trigger. It's in your blood. Maggie tried to grab my phone, but I pulled it back. She screamed that I had no right to record her private conversations. I told her she had no right to plot my financial destruction in the house I paid for. The argument lasted 2 hours. She tried every angle. She said the conversation was taken out of context. She said her mother was joking. She said Wilfred was just a friend. When none of that worked, she switched tactics and said she only entertained her mother's schemes because Bernadette was controlling and she was scared to push back. She painted herself as a victim of her own family. I told her I didn't care. I said Ethan had already filed for divorce and the terms were non-negotiable. The company was protected by my father's stake in the pre-incorporation date. Her adultery was documented. The recording proved premeditation. She was getting nothing beyond what the law absolutely required. She tried to grab the phone. Like destroying the evidence would undo reality. Like if she could just delete that recording, somehow Wilfred would unexist and the last 4 years would become genuine. Ma'am, the evidence is already with the lawyer. You're not in Mission Impossible. You're in a courtroom drama and you're losing. But the defense rotation she ran through? Out of context. Mom was joking. Wilfred is just a friend. Mom is controlling and I'm scared. For different characters in 2 hours. She basically auditioned for every role except honest person who admits wrongdoing. At some point you have to respect the commitment to never ever taking accountability even when the recording is literally playing. And Wilfred is just a friend. Girl, you said on recording he was ready to move in when the divorce finalizes. What kind of friend has their name on the lease before the ink is dry? Is Wilfred also her platonic Thursday companion who platonically books hotel rooms on her husband's credit card? Is that friendship to you? Maggie called her mother immediately. Within hours my phone started blowing up. Bernadette left 67 voicemails calling me a vindictive snake, saying her daughter was going to be homeless, that her cards were declined everywhere, that I was a monster for doing this. Maggie herself called over 100 times. Her first voicemails were pure rage, threatening lawyers and destruction. By the end she was begging me to talk. Rhiannon texted that I'd regret this. I texted back that her mother's coaching didn't work out so well, and maybe she should reconsider her own marriage strategy. It's been 3 weeks now. Maggie is staying with Bernadette because Wilfred apparently wasn't ready to support a woman with no income and a failed divorce scheme. The house is mine. The company is protected. My father calls every few days to check on me. I'm writing this because someone asked for an update and because I want people to understand something. I spent 4 years being a mark without knowing it. Now I'm 32 years old running a successful company and finally free of people who only saw me as a resource to exploit. Bernadette said it was in Maggie's blood to drain men dry. Maybe it was, but she picked the wrong man. 67 voicemails from Bernadette. This woman went from drain him dry to you're making my daughter homeless in the span of 48 hours. The audacity to call him a monster when you literally have a recorded masterclass of yourself explaining how to financially destroy him. You are the monster. You just lost. And now you're mad the prey had teeth. And Wilford. Oh, Wilford. The moment Maggie showed up at his door with nothing, no house, no money, no leverage, suddenly he wasn't ready. 4 years of I'll be here when the divorce finalizes. And the second she actually needed him, ghost. Wilford was never in love with Maggie. Wilford was in love with the package. He was waiting for the complete set, wife, house, income. Without the accessories, he didn't want the base model. That man was never a partner. He was an opportunist with less commitment than a streaming trial subscription. But that response to Rhiannon, your mother's coaching didn't work out so well, maybe reconsider your own marriage strategy. That is poetry. That's not just a clapback, that's a warning. Somewhere out there is Rhiannon's husband who has no idea what's being planned for him, and this man just fired a flare in his direction. If that guy ever finds this thread, he needs to start checking his wife's video call schedule immediately. You're watching Hidden Lies, where secrets don't stay buried. This story will make you question everything. Stay till the end.